Show. Our purpose is to share with you the vision, skills, techniques, inspiration, motivation, and the daily activity needed to build a solid, profitable business. Always remember that this is our team philosophy. It's your business, and you need to do what's best for you and your family. So now let's get out a pen and notebook, and don't miss anything, and take lots of notes. Jeff, want to take it away?
Awesome, guys. So 2 things. I forgot my 5 hour somewhere. And Sherry's with us. What's happening? I'm tagging people in videos. Tim's with us. What's going on, sir? I'm pulling up what we're going over today, and basically what we're following is team philosophy. Basically how to build, how to structure a team, how to recruit. We were going over this yesterday, so we're just going to kind of follow up. We're in the middle of this. Can you go grab that?
Yes, I can.
Please. Please. We went over, just kind of recap so far, we kind of ran over the mindsets. We went over how to think like a business owner, a networker, and a leader. We went over how you think, your programming, philosophy, identity, thinking, attitude, actions, habit, results, lifestyle, legacy. So that's where we left off. And programming, basically how we're going to reprogram. So Rich, what's going on? How's it going? Rob's with us. What's going on? Dan, I saw, just jumped on. So here's basically part of the philosophy. So this is the philosophy of recruiting. If you want to go fast, if you want to build to an executiveship. And this show specifically is about a company. So for those of you, I see Dave Peters is with us. For those of you who are not part of the company that I'm working with, that I'm building, which is fine. It's just we're going to talk specifics at certain points in this, and I'm going to mention company names and company products, so I just want you to know. The lunchtime show doesn't come on till noon Eastern Standard Time, so Sherry, you're just early. I basically get off this one and go to the next one. But I started doing this show because this is something I did in a former company that I'm bringing back to help basically my specific team grow, and then we have the show for the school that's generic. So I just kind of throw out that disclaimer here. So a couple things. If you want to grow a team and you want to grow big, you basically have to line up the things you're going to do, and then it says you must become core to those things. So core to those things specifically means that you're going to commit to them, you're going to physically do them. Second, you must start people right. So I'm going to go over here, and probably, I guess it's going to be Friday, how we're going to start people the right way. And that's specifically in a company. So I'm going to go over massive detail in the company that I work with. That's Legal Shield now. So for those of you who aren't part of that company, it won't make absolutely any sense to you. But for those of you who are in that company, it'll make a lot of sense to you. And again, it's our philosophy. So number 2 is you must start people right. Number 3 is you must obey the laws of duplication. Now, the laws of duplication work in Legal Shield. They work in, Amway, Avon, Mary Kay. They work in every single company across the board. They're exactly the same. Number 4, you must protect your team. And here's the thing. You have to protect your team from the inside. The people who have the great ideas that have never built before, that have no success, that think they have an idea, that want to tell your team how to do it. And then you have to also protect from the outside. Sometimes there's things like corporate people who want to influence your team to do it the way they think it should be done. And in some corporate cases, it's great because the corporate people are builders. But in other corporate cases, the people are not builders. They have never structured a team. They haven't even recruited one person to the team, but they want to tell you how to do it. So you have to kind of be careful who you listen to and what you listen to. And number 5, you have to learn the growth cycle of what actually goes on. So, are you doing everything? Are you doing everything consistent and persistently? And are you learning and teaching that to your team? Are you doing everything? So if there's 10 ingredients to make a cake, are you using all 10? Are you doing them in the right order? If you're not, you don't get the cake. The same thing is true inside of team building and recruiting. It doesn't seem like it. It seems like you can skip things, and it seems like you can do it when it's convenient for you. But I'll tell you, I've done this for a long time, and I've watched a lot of people try to do it. And the people who have success on my team, the people who have success outside my team, all seem to have the same things in common. They do everything. Not what they like to do, not what they're just good at, but everything it takes to succeed. They also do it consistently and persistently. Consistency, meaning they track it, they know the numbers, they're out there every day doing what it takes to make it happen. Now, if you just want to make $300, or if you just want to make $500 inside of MLM, if you just want to make $300 inside of M&M's. Inside of MLM, network marketing, direct sales, if that's all you want to make is $500, you don't have to listen to any of this. But if you expect your check to go from $500 to $1,000 or $1,000 to $2,000, honestly, if you plan on making probably anywhere over $1,000, because you can make about $1,000 in direct sales just selling very easily in a lot of companies. Some companies, you don't have a hope in hell of making $1,000 in, because the margin's so small, there's just no way to sell enough product even retail. I know they show the example, but bring me somebody that makes over $1,000 and then we'll talk. But there's some companies that it's damn near impossible to do it in. Not that it's not necessary, because some people, $300 is a lot of money and that's all they want. That's fine. That's not what this show is geared towards. So if that's all you're looking for, it's great that you're on here and listening, but it's not for you. But you want to be consistent. The greatest gift you can give your team is consistency, so that way they have something to follow. It's the same thing they come back to. Just like, I hate to say it, just like when you're in a job, if they started you at a job and every single day they changed the furniture and changed the way you did things, you'd quit. In fact, that happens all the time, doesn't it? You hear about people complaining about their job. They're like, oh my God, they changed the software again. Oh my gosh, they changed this again. The order in which they want me to do the paper. Who the hell cares? You get paid either way when you show up at that. But at this, when you change things, it really messes people up. So you want to be consistent and persistent. So let's get into this mindset thing. The second thing is you have to get people started right. So let's talk a little bit about this. And this is more of the philosophy. This isn't the specifics. I'm just going over like the mindset. Number one, can you do what I just did? Can you do what I just did? So everything that I look at is, I have to say, can I teach this to somebody else? Not only can I teach it to somebody else, can I teach it to somebody else in a 45-minute window? That's it. If I can't teach you in a 45-minute window, I can't get you started right. It's not duplicatable. It won't go in depth. That's how long I have. So it has to be something so easy, so simple, it's a 45-minute. If I have to sign up for a program, and then I have to take a class, and then I have to learn some other shit, it's not going to be duplicatable. There's no way that that's going to process out far in depth. Number two, do I have the time to do what you're doing? So whatever I teach, do I have the time to do it? And then last, am I okay with doing it with my friends, family, and neighbors? I'm going to add one more thing. Does it work? Is it effective? Because if you say I can do it, if you say I have the time to do it, if you say I don't mind doing it, but it doesn't work, then it's not really that good of a program, is it? If the average person can't do this and succeed, then it doesn't even make sense to do it in the first place. So that's one gauge that I have, is what I'm doing, working for new people, working for people who don't have a background in direct sales. Here's the next one. Number three, obey the laws of duplication. So it must work instantly. That's one thing that a lot of people miss. And instantly means I can sit down in 45 minutes and teach this to somebody. So when I was teaching Brandy, even I use this. We use this in our holistic company. We use this in our credit repair company. We use this in our real estate company. It's the same thing in everything. That this is what we teach. So when I sat down and I showed her kind of the process of intaking a lead that came in, somebody to go talk to, or when we're out networking, hey, here's the process to go through, form. It's a 45-minute training, and then you go out and practice it. But it's uncomfortable the first couple times. I mean, you can tell them what happened, the first couple times you did it, when you were on the phone and it kind of sounded, it's hard because you have to read it and it doesn't sound right. But after how long do you think before you just got it and it worked?
After like 4 to 5 phone calls or doing it a few times, with people in public, it really started to flow very well. So it didn't take long because it was easy to go through, and since it was written out exactly what I needed to say, it wasn't that hard. It just took a little bit to get the flow.
Now, Brandy was involved in a company before we were together and before she started working with me, and based on their philosophy, what did they try to do?
Oh, go out and sell your friends and family, but not in the right way. It's like be overly excited more than what your normal excitement would be, and go hunt down people at Walmart and try to body slam them into your business. And yeah, that doesn't work, obviously.
So a lot of idea of the day kind of thing. So what I taught her is 2 things. Number one, we're going to approach friends and family a very different way. A way that's not going to get you non-invited to Thanksgiving, a way that's not going to mess up birthday parties and bar mitzvahs and, you know, anniversaries where you're actually able still to be invited to most of this. It's a way that is going to look not just normal, but professional. Because, you know, people are like, just be normal. Well, most people aren't normal. I don't know if you've recognized this. Most people aren't normal. Most people are super freaking awkward to begin with. Most people are nervous. Most people are self-conscious. And then we're telling people, just go out and talk to your friends. No, that is not what you should do. The company wants you to do that just so you get the word out, and then when you quit, a lot of people know who it is, and when somebody good comes along, they're going to recruit them. That's fine for the company. But if you want success, like, that's what this is really about, if for you to succeed. Not for the company to make money, not for the team to make money, but for you to make money. That's what we're trying to teach. So number 1, it must work instantly. Number 2, it must work 10 levels below me. So I knew this started working when I was building teams 25, 30, 40, 50 levels deep, and all of a sudden I had a leg off of them that was 5, 10, 15, 20 levels deep. So when I had done this before, I saw it start to work. I saw it start to duplicate. I had people on my team that were out making sales, that were out recruiting people without me. That's the key. Are people doing things on your team without you? If they're not, then it hasn't duplicated yet. Number 3, it must work with people you don't know. So if it's just people you know, great. I'll give you, for instance, I got on the phone the other night, and I don't know if you ever have those days where it just seems like I chart everything. Like, I've got a notebook, and I chart the very beginning of the month. It's got, you know, the day on here and what happened. And by the way, we just woke up today, and the volume's changed, and we just broke another level, which is awesome. I mean, we were going to do it anyway. Don't get me wrong. It was part of the process because I was trying to break 4 levels, 5 levels. 5 levels in 1 month, which isn't normal, but we just wanted to do that. Just kind of set a pace, show people what's actually possible, instead of hanging out and being too sexy in the Midwest and, you know, doing our 1 for the month. We broke another level, and I track every day what's going on. And there was like 3 days where nothing happened. The volume didn't change, a new person, and I was freaking out. So, like anybody, it starts working on you. So I got on the phone, I was just messaging people, trying to get somebody on the phone. Guy finally messaged me back and says, okay, I can talk. I was just out walking the dog. I was like, cool. I got on the phone, and I know this guy, like I'd met him before, but I didn't know him. So I got on the phone, and it was more like, hey, you know, I wanted to network. I'm reaching out to a bunch of people that I've met at networking events, and I know we've seen each other like 10, 15 times, but I actually don't know what you do. Like, what do you do? And he started telling me that out of college, he bought into this program, and he's 25% owner, and that's kind of like the main thing. And his wife was in the military, and she just retired, so she just joined Avon, and that he was going to get out of the network marketing. He resigned from the network marketing company he was in. He was going to wait 6 months and switch teams with inside the same company. And I was like, oh, wow, that's crazy. And I said, well, you know, here's what I'm doing now. And I explained to him the program over the phone. Yes, you're allowed to do that as long as you're using a tool. So I took out my flip book, and I read through the flip book because I had said by name, and he's like, oh yeah, I've heard of that. I said, but do you actually know what the company does? He's like, no. And that's a major mistake people make if you want to build big, is people will have heard the name of the company, especially if you've been in a company that's been around for years. They know the name, but they have no idea what they do. Why? Because Cousin Bob, Uncle Sally, I'm just kidding, Uncle Bob or Uncle John, or, you know, Cousin Mary, will tell them they're in something. Oh yeah, I got in Legal Shield. I got in Prepaid Legal. I got in Amway. I got in Avon. They got in, but they don't tell people what they do. You know why? Because they don't know what they're in. They don't know how to explain the program. They've never seen a presentation. Why haven't they ever seen a presentation? Because the person who signed them up sold them on the money, or say, hey, you can get a car bonus with it. Guys, what's missing is the frickin' presentation in all these cases. That's what creates this fragmented business that's out in the field. So I'm like, do you know what we do? He's like, no. So I read it to him. Literally read it to him. I said, we do this, we do this. He's like, oh, wow. Oh, yeah, that's cool. Oh, well, can I use it for this? Yes. So we get done, and he's like, who are you looking for? I said, thank you so much. I always start the same way. I always end the same way. Hey, can you do me a favor? I want you to hear. Here's what we do. And then at the end, thank you so much for listening. Normally, you're not supposed to thank people for presentation. I do, because of the way that I start and finish. Hey, thanks so much for hearing us out. If you run into somebody, here's how to refer them. He's like, so who exactly are you looking for? I said, well, it'd be really good to partnership with anybody in real estate anybody in the insurance business, anybody in financial services, anybody that's done networking before that just hasn't had success, wants success. He goes, oh my gosh, I know this guy in Florida. And I was like, okay. He goes, he's been in insurance. He also was my former upline in this other company. He was a big guy. I was like, yes. He's like, do you want to talk? Yes. That is exactly who I'm like. In fact, that's like a triple star contact, not like a regular contact. That is the guy I want to talk to. So a couple out, like I didn't think he'd send him to me. But about an hour later, he's like, hey, sorry, my phone died, but I just want to connect the two of you. Hey, so-and-so, this is Jeff. Jeff, this is so-and-so. And I text right away. I said, hey, man, how you doing? He's like, oh, great. He's like, can't really talk, on text because I'm driving. I said, well, can I call you? Kenny, what's up? I said, can I call you? He's like, yeah, sure, you can call me. So I pick up the phone, I call him. And, I don't know this guy. I said, well, JC tells me that, you're down in Florida and that you come from, JC said that he came from one country, but he actually came from another country. He came from Panama. I said, oh, you're from Panama. Okay, that's cool. So what do you do now? And he's like, well, contracting. I'm getting my GC license. And I was like, what did you do before that? He's like, well, insurance. Watch this. What did you do before that? See, a lot of people ask what people do right now, but they don't go back. Now, I have this training through mortgage and real estate where when I'm taking a loan application, I'm supposed to go back 5 years. So I've been trained to ask that question. What'd you do before that? What'd you do before that? What'd you do before that? I go all the way back, though. I go all the way back to when people get out of school. Why? Because I'm looking for that special something that someone did at some point that they might already have the training to do what I do or what I would like to work on together with them. And a lot of times I find it and people just don't ask enough questions. Not that they don't ask enough questions, they ask questions that are non-related to what we're trying to get done, and they ask them in the wrong order. That's why I've written them out in the right order, so that way the people who work with me ask the right questions, and they find this stuff out. So anyway, I find out he was a former platinum inside of another company. Antoinette, how are you? I find out this guy's a former platinum inside of another company. So, by the way, guys, disclaimer again, this is not the MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show. This is actually for my company, the one I work in. I'm giving out details of how to build and what's going on. So, if you're coming on here, the Lunchtime Leadership Show starts in about 12 minutes. And I will get off this and go to that, and that's all generic. So, just disclaimer, I'm going to mention company names, and I'm recruiting. So, just throwing that out there. So, I talked to this guy, find out he's a former platinum in a company, find out he's worked insurance. He's not really focused on insurance right now, but he does that, and he's getting his GC license, and his wife's a real estate agent. So I'm like, oh, cool. I said, well, I wanted to talk to you about what I'm doing and the company I'm in. And again, same process. I got out my flip book, and I said, do me a favor. I just want to present this to you. I'm trying to get the word out. I'm trying to build down into Florida. Here's what we do. And I went through it, and he's like, oh, wow. I didn't know that. And then he says, well, how much does it cost to get a spot in this? I'm like, $99. He's like, okay, yeah, I'll do that. He agreed to it right away. But, I'm not like, you can't be like the pit bull that just, I was like, okay, cool. That's great. I said, but, this is what we're doing. If you run into the right person, here's how I'd like the referral, and if you want to work. And then he asked me something specific. He goes, well, JC said that you had a very unique way of building depth. He's like, how do you get leads for this? Do you just harass friends and family? Or do you do leads? I said, actually, I do both. And then I explained to him, my philosophy of building is basically putting one guy in and then building the next guy. I got taught that by somebody in the company that this guy also built in. So I said, just imagine that company, because I know their comp plan and I know their product line and I know their company really well. I said, just imagine starting one organization and placing straight down for a year. I said, the guy who taught me this basically built an organization down about 175 levels in 1 year. He's like, oh my gosh. I said, yeah, so all the people at the top actually hit the top of the chart, like the top 15, 20 guys all hit the top of the chart simultaneously. I mean, it was insanity when you looked at how big this got. Kevin Chambers is with us. What's up, sir? All of those people hit the top of the chart. The second year, he built down another leg like that. While he was still working, while he still owned a business, while he was still running. And then he did the third leg. And that guy, I mean, he was like the nicest guy in the world. I mean, taught me so much about building, structure. He was an engineer, business owner by trade, just super, super nice guy. Unfortunately, destroyed his kidneys, doing some stuff he shouldn't have. Just lifestyle-wise, he didn't sleep, didn't eat, ran his body too much, was pounding like 8 cups of coffee, staying up all night. Destroyed his coffee, had a kidney transplant, and it eventually caught up, and RIP, one of the most awesome guys of my life. I was very sad to hear about his passing, but he taught me so much about this, and I explained this to this guy down in Florida, and he's like, I like this. He's like, okay, so I want some information. I said, okay, well, what specifically do you want information on? Are you looking for our membership of what we do, the coverage, or are you more looking at the business opportunity? He's like, the business opportunity. I said, so more about the money. He's like, yes, how does the money work? I said, great, I'll do 2 things. I'll send you a PDF of the presentation, because in there it shows the levels, and I'll also send you a video that covers kind of the whole thing, the business opportunity, everything. He's like, cool, awesome. Sent that to him. Got off the phone with him, talked to another person. Remember, this was on a day that I was having a bad day, that I just didn't feel like this was going anywhere. You ever have those days? Mm-hmm. But here's something you want to write down. Force the result. What result do you want, first of all, and then you have to push it to make it happen. So I called the next guy, explain it to him. He's like, okay, cool, this sounds great. It sounds like something, and he had a lot of questions. Anytime somebody has a lot of questions, they're contemplating doing it. They're just contemplating, can I do it, and will it work for me? Got in 3 presentations. The original guy who referred me, the guy in Florida, and then a totally separate guy in West Virginia. All over the phone. And I got off the phone. Again, nothing happened. The volume was exactly the same, except for the fact that, that was true. The volume was exactly the same. The next day, I'm supposed to follow up with all these guys. Went out, met with another friend. She finally is physically in the system, and then we talked about her business, and she's like, hey, I really need a business plan. So I was like, well, do you want to do that like later or now? I don't care when you do it. And she's like, well, I'm sitting here, let's do it now. So we looked it up. She's like, what does it cover? So I looked it up online, because we can get into our back office and find out the coverage. And I read it to her. I copied and pasted and sent it to her. She's like, okay, cool. And I read it to her, and she's like, wow, that is a good deal. She's like, yeah, I'll sign up for it now. So I sold a business plan. And then I got back on the phone and I started following up with these guys. Well, the guy from West Virginia wanted his wife and had questions. So we got on the phone and we talked about that. The guy from Florida is like, hey, I haven't gotten to the presentation yet. I was like, hey man, I was just saying hi, checking in, seeing how the day was. He's like, it's been busy. I'm not getting in until like late at night. I'll get back to you. Okay, cool. I had already, after I got off the phone with both these people, I added them into the database. I added them into Prospect. Prospect is our customer CRM, customer relationship manager, and I had already fired them out the presentation. So what I found out was the first guy watched the video as soon as I sent it to him that night, the guy in West Virginia, but the guy in Florida didn't look at it until after I followed up with him that day. Have the conversation with the gentleman in West Virginia. The next day, I go to lunch, I sign up a friend of mine, and then he has a friend that's transferring, it's a military thing, transferring here, and he wanted to transfer underneath this guy. I said, okay, great. We know each other through another third party guy that's already in the business. So I started thinking, I was like, man, what if I use those 2 guys as leverage? So I called the guy in West Virginia. I said, hey, I just signed up a good friend of mine. He's getting started again. His family's in real estate. His friend does a show online for ministry, works with veterans, and wants to set up a veteran program. I will put both of these guys on your team if you're ready to get started. And he's like, yeah, cool, let's do it. I'm like, awesome. I called the guy back from Florida, and I'm like, I texted to him because I'm like, hey, can you talk right now? He's like, no, I'm doing something. And I was like, can I text you something? He's like, yeah. So I wrote out, I said, look, here's how this worked. Here's the guys I talked to. Here's the guys I signed up. If I were to put these 3 people on your team, I don't care when, you can sign up in a year. Like, it doesn't matter to me. But if it is something you want to do and it's $100 to get the spot and the membership, I can put these 3 guys on your team. Would you want to do that? All I get back is a yes. Okay, that's good. So I'm like, I'll talk to him in a little while. Yesterday was insane. So I ended up getting the guy's application at lunch, talked to the other guy, his friend, who's going to sign up when he gets back from vacation. He's the very bottom of the group because he was the last guy we talked to. The guy from West Virginia, got on the phone with him, couldn't kind of get enough time to sign up, did my call, and I said, look, I've got a call at 9, you're going to church. I'm like, we're going to have to talk at 10:30. He's like, well, I go to bed at 10. I'm like, well, then you're going to have to stay up if you want these people on your team. He's like, okay, cool. So he was watching some personal development. Awesome. So I got on the phone at 10, got him signed up. Then at 11, got on the phone, and by the time I was done, the guy in Florida had already asked for my link, and he filled it out and was asking me questions while I was on the call, and he signed up. So we ended up signing up 4 people. Now they're in the computer. Now I go back to 2 more people that I've already talked to, along with the guy that originally I talked to. I know this is kind of hard. Like, I'd have to physically draw it out because there's so many people involved. But I took it from 1 application to 2 applications to 3 applications to 4 applications. So we got 4 applications, but most likely what's going to happen is I'm going to end up with 5 people in one day. Out of one day's work, really. You know, because it kind of started and trailed through. And this is called shopping an application. So what it does, it's kind of like you take one, and I always go in the order in which I show. So this is why I map out who I talk to. This is why I present the way I do, is because I'm able to use massive leverage to build giant teams very quickly. Like, I kind of called last night to our sponsors and, you know, Upline directly, that run the state of Kentucky and Tennessee, and I was explaining to him how he did this. He's like, "What? In one day?" Yeah. I was like, yeah, and I said we should have number 5 today, and possibly I'm going to use all 5 of those applications to go get this other guy, so we should have 6. So we have 4 for sure, but it looks like we'll have 5 or 6 personal recruits. Now I'm going to give the one guy away because they know each other better than I don't, you know, that was the connection to begin with. I said I'd rather you sponsor him than me. And the other guy at the very bottom, that guy knew him, but we ended up with 4 new people on the team, 3 of which I recruited personally, and then we'll end up with 5. The guy at the bottom sponsoring his friend, and the guy who originally told me about the guy in Florida, I'm going to let the guy in Florida recruit him because they know each other better, if he wants to get started. Then I'm going to take that entire rung of people and applications. This is why you want to set your back office to manual rather than automatic. And I'm going to go grab that entire leg and place it underneath a friend of mine who also is in real estate and running for a promotion. So that's kind of how we do it. So it must work 1,000 miles away. It must work when an amateur does it to a professional. So that's the list of duplication. It must work instantly. It must work 10 levels below me. It must work with people I don't know. It must work 1,000 miles away, and it must work when an amateur does it to a professional and vice versa. That example I just gave is verbatim this list right here. That's why I do things the way I do them. That's why I don't send people to a bunch of fucking websites that who knows when or how. Now, I sent the website after I talked to them because now they know what they're looking at. They're not looking at it for information. They're looking at it for confirmation. So, guys, that's the show for today. Going Executive Director. We're going to be doing this a lot. I'll explain examples like this on how you can take one application and turn it into 2, 3, 4. My record so far is I took one application and turned it into 9 recruits in about a 48-hour time frame. That creates momentum. So with that, that is a wrap. James Addix is here. What's up, sir? We're going to switch over. I'm going to get off this, and we're going to start the MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show, the generic show that we do every day. Thank you so much, Antoinette. How are you? James Addix, we're going to jump over to the other show. Thank you guys so much.